Attachment parenting encourages kids to co-sleep with parents and breastfeed on demand. Challenges all the conventional notions of child raising that we've come to know, but the experts are passionate that it works.
Andy Liu, author of The Modern Day Mother, was featured in a 60 Minutes story last night. She firmly believes in this style of parenting and she's here to tell us why. Wow, Andy, it's certainly got people talking, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and I prefer to not call it sort of attachment parenting. I like to sort of call it instinctive parenting, or just being respectful to the child, because breastfeeding on demand makes it sound so bad, doesn't it? It's actually just...
Sounds like something I'm going to get on cable TV.
It's like, yeah, and you know, that child's in control of you, David,
yeah.
you know. But
there was some segments last night where it did look like, you know, the child, because I watched it, was a great thing, but,
yeah,
you know, it was interesting that so the kid would come up and say, well, me, and he wanted to be breastfed right then and there. So there was a sort of a demand element to certainly one of the parents.
Well, you know, sometimes that mum might be able to say, well, can we do this a little bit later, or would you like a glass of water first? And I mean, every family dynamic is so different and every child is so unique. But it's important to acknowledge that the mothers that do want to parent this way aren't judged, because it is natural and it's normal. And the research is now showing how crucial it is for neurological development.
So how did you start using this style of parenting, Andy? How did it come about?
Yeah, I mean, I never set out to do this, but I was just being instinctive and responding to my child's cries and cues, because we're hormonally and biologically designed to do that. But I kind of shut out all of those, you know, signs that my body was telling me to go to my child when he was crying, because certain books were saying to me, you know, feed your child on a schedule, and I landed up very sick and I got mastitis.
Sure.
So if you don't feed your child, or breastfeed your child when it asks, because they control the supply, not you, you will either bank up with mastitis or dry up. So this is why there are so many breastfeeding issues.
Because it is one of the great unknown things. I mean, breastfeeding is something you see so much in birth classes when you're a parent, and you go along and they say so much about giving birth, and they go, and then there's your child. Yeah. They don't really tell you about what happens next. So it is quite a thing with breastfeeding.
Right.
It's been quite a challenge.
And I was lucky to have the support, and this is why I sort of want to pay it forward, because people don't know that there's great support out there with the Australian Breastfeeding Association and their 1800 Mum to Mum helpline. Somebody actually said, you know, join up and become a member while I was pregnant. And I'm like, well, what would I need that for? It's just going to come naturally, right? And then I landed up with mastitis. So I, of course, went to them for support, so I was able to continue.
But let's talk about the most important thing, is the crying situation. Because you said last night it helps with the crying, where the kids don't cry as much when you put them down.
Well, let's face it, if you were crying, David, I'd give you a hug.
Well, I was about you were going to say something else then. I thought that's a little inappropriate.
No, that's right. But the thing is, it's just about being respectful, and a child really does need you, and it's about being responsive, if you like, to their cues, because crying is the last sign that they will tell you that they need something, not the first. And it's important to acknowledge the science and the research behind the psychological ramifications of letting your child cry it out. It's really only a new sort of Western world practice that's going on, because, you know, it's I think, maybe in a bid to get some sleep, but, you know, that's a whole nother story.
Not that there's anything wrong with that on either side, but there is a school of thought that if you do go to the child all the time when they're crying, then as they grow older, and I don't know, I mean, maybe you can tell me this from your own experience, will the kids just be more demanding, like, Mum, I want that cup now filled with juice and let's go, and is that what happens with these kids?
Well, it's important to acknowledge why the baby's actually waking at night. And that might be because they need rocking to develop the vestibular part of the brain. So, you know, when someone hands you a baby, the first thing you start doing is swaying and moving, and that's just because we've got this innate thing within us to help them develop that part of the brain. They might also be waking for stimulation of supply, or even just a cuddle, and, like, you know, lucky you, because you're such a divine mother, they just want to be close. But yeah, I think that the research is showing that it's actually the opposite. They're not a clingy child, because people that actually are responsive to their child when they cry land up with children that understand they don't need to shout and scream and make a big fuss in order to get your attention. So they're much more secure in their attachment to you.
Wow.
Very interesting.
It's so interesting.
The Modern Day Mother, that's Andy Liu's book. Thanks for joining us this morning, Andy.
Thank you.